Hey y'all, it's Jen and welcome to my channel, Iffer's Inklings. Today we have the second installment of the 95-part series as we go through Essential Bukowski's, the poems that were selected and edited by Abel DeBrito. If you haven't seen my announcement video, go check it out because I go into a little bit about what these, how Abel picked these poems and kind of what we're talking about in this series. Again, we're just going through his poetry page by page to really see if these are the essential poems of Charles Bukowski. And I always feel like I need to do a disclaimer for Bukowski when I talk about him. He is my favorite author. I think he's very accessible as a poet, but there's always a but. He can be rude, he can be crass, he can be vulgar, and his poems will sometimes contain that as well. So if you're not into that thing or you are underage, if you are, how did you find my Bukowski poems anyway? But if those kinds of things offend you, go ahead and click out of this. This isn't going to be the series or the poet for you. Although, if you can handle a little bit of vulgarness and crassness and rudeness and all of that, then I would love for you to give Bukowski a chance with me here in my videos. And with that said, let's dive into the second poem. Okay guys, so here we are at the second poem in this installment, and this one is going to be As the Sparrow. To give life, you must take life. And as our grief falls flat and hollow upon the billion-blooded sea, I pass upon Sirius inward breaking shoals rimmed with white-legged, white-bellied, rotting creatures, lengthily dead and rotting against the surrounding scenes. Dear child, I only did to you what the sparrow did to you. I am old when it is fashionable to be young. I cry when it is fashionable to laugh. I hated you when it would have taken less courage to love. Ooh, there's a lot to unpack in this one. To give life, you must take life. This poem, I think, probably refers to Bukowski's daughter and when she was born. And to give life kind of reflects on him giving life, but it says you also must take life, which he took, her being born kind of took away from the life that him and her mother lived. I don't know the proper word for that, the proper verb. There's a lot of allegory in this that I don't really understand. Someone a lot more knowledgeable in this area of poetry and the descriptions and why is he pulling in the birds. He's talking about dead birds, really. He's talking about dead birds, white-legged, white-bellied, rotting creatures. When we look back on Bukowski's life, he didn't think he had anything to offer anybody, and so that's kind of what he's passing on. I pass upon Sirius inward breaking shoals rimmed with white-legged, white-bellied, rotting creatures. I think he's referring to himself, what he's passing on. What does he have to offer a child? He doesn't have anything to offer a child. He just has all this rotting gunk in his soul and in his life. And, you know, I mean, this is a guy whose favorite pastime was going to the racehorses, betting money he didn't have, smoking, drinking, and chasing women. What kind of life can he offer a child? And what kind of, childhood can he offer? He didn't have a great role model. His mother and his father especially was just horrendous. Very neglectful, very abusive, relationship with that very not good situation. Dear child, I only did to you what the sparrow did to you. Um, the sparrow died. And I guess to me, he's kind of saying that what he's giving her isn't really a life at all. He can't give her a life. He's old when it's fashionable to be young. He cries when he's supposed to laugh. He doesn't do what's expected of him or what society says he should do. He doesn't conform to the norms of society, what's going on around in the world around him. He's kind of the one that's out there, white-legged, white-bellied, and rotting, in his opinion. And this, I hated you when it would have taken less courage to love. He was scared. It's easier to hate. It's always easier to hate than it is to love. Because when you love, you have to be vulnerable. To hate somebody or something, you don't have to be vulnerable. And so that's the easy way out. That is the coward's way. And that's what he's saying here. I hated you when it would have taken less courage to love. And I know in the beginning of his or really the whole relationship with his daughter, it wasn't always a very good relationship. He loved his daughter, but he didn't think he had anything to offer her, and he didn't know how to be a dad because he didn't have any kind of role model. And he didn't know how to relate to her because he was this old drunk poet that was barely making ends meet at this time. He didn't have anything to offer her or her mom. Probably he felt like the best thing to offer them was for him not to be involved. And so I think that that's kind of reflected in this poem. I'm sure the birds mean something, but I don't know. To give life you must take a life, and as our grief falls flat and hollow upon the billion blooded sea. That his grief is over his life before children, before his daughter was born, is that life. But it does fall flat and hollow because having a child is not a death sentence. It doesn't take a life. If you just give it half a if you're any kind of fit parent, it's not going to be that. Now, in the situation he was in, he was struggling just to survive himself. So I could see where he might think that it would be a kind of a death sentence, but his grief of the life that he lived before children, that just falls flat and hollow. So this one is a little bit harder. I think that there's probably some good discussion in this, some good things to think about. It's not one of my favorites. It's harder for me. It's not one of the easier, more accessible poems, in my opinion, of Charles Bukowski's. Would not have been one that I would have picked for an Essential Bukowski collection, but I can kind of see where someone else might think so. So with that said, in the comments below, let me know what you thought about this poem. Did you pick up something that I didn't? Did you understand it in a way different than what I understood? Did it speak to you in a different way than it spoke to me? Let me know that in the comments below. I'm always interested to see how other people interpret Bukowski's works, and especially ones that I don't have a lot of or enough knowledge of poetry to really dissect, like this one really needed to be dissected. So with that said, if you've enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up over there. If you didn't enjoy this video or you hate Bukowski, go ahead and hit that thumbs down button. I'm okay with that too. But while you are over there, be sure and hit that big red subscribe button and the little bell next to it so that you can be notified when I post new videos in this series and my other content as well. Like I said, be sure and leave me a comment of some sort down below. I'd love to be able to interact with you, especially on this poem and this series. This one is definitely one that does well for discussion. So let's discuss. Let's discuss this poem by Bukowski. As the Sparrow. And until next week when we have another Bukowski poem to discuss in this series, I will talk to you later.